What up, fantasy people? Trav here from True North, coming correct from Dirty Laundry Studios in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. You can find me at TSeal14 on Twitter and follow the True North account at TrueNorthFFB. And don't forget to check out the site at TrueNorthFFB.com. And the YouTube channel is the TNFF Network. So with that mouthful out, it's been a bit of a minute since our last pod. We took a few weeks off. We had some family stuff going on, some life stuff happening. So we are back at it now. It's myself riding solo, but I have brought on a couple of baller guests tonight. Two of my good buddies from the Undroppables. We are going to start. Well, actually, you guys are both in Cali, so we're going down to Cali right now, real proper, like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, we've got one member of the Undroppables is a writer and ranker. He's always bringing real thought-provoking analysis and content, and I always appreciate his perspective, the way he attacks fantasy football. That's my guy Jax Falcone. Jax can be found at Dino Game Theory. How you doing, Jax? It's a pleasure to have you on, my man.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, my friend. Big fan of yours as well.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate that. And then our other guest needs no mention himself. Another beauty in the fantasy community. He is also a key member of the Undroppables team, the Emperor of Indica, the Sultan of Smoke. This is Fantasy Stoner. You can find him at Fantasy FB Stoner on Twitter. Stoner, what's cracking, my brother? It's been a long time coming for this.
It has been a minute, Trav. You know, life is what it is right now, and it's fantastic to be joining you boys and try to have a little fun tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet, fellas. So, yeah, we mentioned off the top, you guys are working with Undroppables, so they can be found at the Undroppables. Lots of stuff going on there. So, Jax, why don't we start with you? What kind of stuff are you working on with the UND crew, as I like to call you?
Well, we're working on a bunch of stuff right now, and I think we've got a lot of guys doing some writing, and the main focus has been on the website and just trying to make sure that the content is pertinent and helpful, right? I mean, that's the whole idea. You just want to make sure that you're putting stuff out that actually is either entertaining or helpful. And kind of timely. So we're just kind of, getting our groove in that regard. And we've got a lot of stuff working behind the scenes. Obviously don't want to spoil anything, but, I'll have a podcast coming out soon. And, Stoner's working on who knows what Stoner's working on, the point, but, we never really know. He just tells us stuff and placates us, but that's besides the point.
Comes up, man.
Yeah. But
I'm contemplating some things. I'm working on some video content ideas and yeah, just that kind of stuff. And we're obviously still promoting, Unscripted, the new podcast. And we got some guys that are really good with numbers and spreadsheets and whatnot, like
math and
Excel
shit.
Guys. Yeah. So they're working on some cool back end stuff that is really gonna, I think, be a long-term tool that many long-term tools that people will be able to take advantage of. And part of that, like Jack started, is making sure the website can handle all the juice. Because this squeeze is going to be it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah, I love what you guys are doing over there. And I think, awesome team, goes without saying. Everybody in the community knows who you guys are. And big shout out to my guy Chalk. That's at 101 Chalk on Twitter. I think Chalk was kind of the maybe the founder, let's say, of the Undroppables, and he's put together a killer crew. And Chalk and I have had a lot of really good conversations and stuff, and I love the direction you guys are going in. And you mentioned it there, Stoner, but I want to give it a little bit of a plug real quick. Make sure anybody who listens or watches this on YouTube, make sure to go check out the Unscripted podcast. They can be found, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, at UnscriptedFF, I believe, on Twitter. And that's our buddies Terminator, Paulie, and Beezy are running the ship on that pod, and they are doing a great job. Dude. Yeah. The Bees. I love Beezy, man. I love all you guys. But yeah, that pod's been great. 8th episode just came out, and we're really loving that. So anybody who listens to us should definitely be listening to Unscripted. We love that.
Absolutely. Thanks for the shout out. They're doing a great job. We're real proud of them. And I think what they're doing is a little bit different. Obviously, the whole idea of being unscripted is that, it's a little unfair because Term knows what they're going to talk about and the other guys don't. But no, I'm just joking around with Term. Come on, Term. But
hey,
yeah,
that's why I didn't read the call sheet for today's show. I was in honor of Paulie and Beezy. I had to represent the Unscripted crew.
Just on brand.
I have no idea really what the hell we're talking about today, but I'm ready to roll.
That's beautiful. Yeah, so why don't we get right into that? We're going to talk a couple topics today. We're going to talk about a couple of COVID things. I know a lot of podcasts are talking a lot of COVID stuff, and it's kind of a bummer, kind of just like a damper on all of our parades or whatever you want to call it. But there are a couple things that I wanted to talk about. And then we're going to get into some tandem backfield. So there's some pretty good stuff to talk about there. But gentlemen, let's...
I like that term.
I know you do. We'll get into that in just a couple minutes, my man. But two things I wanted to talk about for the COVID piece. The opt-out period just ended. We're recording this on... It is Thursday, August 6th, and the COVID opt-out period ended today. Not a ton of notable opt-outs. Jax, you had a tweet that there was a very prominent Jets wide receiver, I believe, today that opted out. So I hope anybody who's listening to this is sitting down, but Josh Doxson has opted out of the 2020 season. So I know he's going to be a key piece on some rosters, so make sure you plan accordingly. Couple other situations too, like the Dolphins had a couple wide receivers opt out in Alan Hearns, and the other guy's name is slipping my mind. Albert Wilson, the Burt alert. That's right.
He was going to get hurt after 3 or 4 games anyway. Losing Albert Wilson now just opens up more targets for Matt Breida.
Totally. He probably would have had like 10 catches in one of those 3 games just to get our hopes up a little bit too, unfortunately. So,
and then everybody would have threw all their waiver money on him, and he would have gotten hurt in practice the next week.
I just want to announce I'm Team Kirk Merritt. That's where I'm planting my flag. So let's go, baby.
Are you? I think I'm going Jakeem Grant just for the excitement factor. I think that guy would be super awesome to see get some volume.
No Jazeki, Jack. You're not going Jazeki.
Jazeki. I thought I threw him off a bridge.
You might be the only one that hates that guy.
I don't even hate him. I'm just don't like him. The counterculture, at this point on it is just a lot of fun to kind of be the guy who's throwing dirt on the guy. But look, at the end of the day, I think there's some concerns with him. Not to steal this Gesicki moment, but I will, because it's been a hot topic for me. And ultimately, I
didn't throw it out there for a reason.
Thank you so much. But for me, it's like you look at Gesicki and I did the anatomy of the tight end, and he checks really all the boxes. I mean, his athleticism is off the charts. It can't be denied. It's unbelievable. One thing I said about his athleticism that I don't think I've ever said on a pod before is, do you remember when the combine happened? Trav, you're gonna like this take. Do you remember when the combine happened? When Gesicki broke everything.
Mm-hmm.
Were you surprised?
Well, that's
remember
a
when it
piece,
happened. We were all surprised.
I think I was.
Here's
I wasn't
why.
as big into the college scouting at that point yet, so I didn't know as much about him coming in. I just thought it was pretty wild that he had those metrics. But carry on, my man.
Here's why we were surprised, because he had 9.9 yards per catch his senior year. I mean, he was not impressive. He was sharing a field with, Saquon Barkley and Chris Godwin. You'd think he'd have found some space to break one. His whole career, he had 1 year above, I think, 11 yards per catch at Penn State. It's just really underwhelming. And then he gets to the league, and he's been underwhelming efficiency-wise. He hasn't broken anything. He hasn't broken tackles. He hasn't been that explosive athlete, on film. He has been good in contested catch. He can't block anybody. He lined up over 75% in the slot. Now, some are pointing to that as a good thing. And you know what? It might be. They have no weapons. They just had 2 opt out. It may be that he just wins with targets. But I don't think if he sees 70 or 80 targets that he's going to have any value. He needs these targets. So if there's a way that he doesn't get those targets, he's in trouble, in my opinion, based on his career efficiency. If you watch the tape and you see something else, share it with me. I just have not seen this kid be good ever.
No. I think people are hyping him a little too much. Like they were hyping Mark Andrews last year. I think a lot of people jumped on the Andrews train and knew like this dude can be a top 10 tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And people think that about him, and I think you're right. I like him to an extent, probably because the position is kind of thin, and unless you're grabbing the GOAT or that fucking clown in Kansas City and a few other names that I'll leave out because you're a Philly fan, you know what I mean? He's a dart throw later while you're stocking up your wide receiver and your running back position. You know, do I take a risk on Evan Engram getting hurt, or would I rather take Jonnu Smith and Mike Gesicki later on and fucking roll the dice with those two guys? And,
yeah, man.
You know, I don't know. I think he's worth a shot, but I think he's not. I think he's climbing a little too high for my take.
You know, let me interject with the Andrews. You know, Mark Andrews in his rookie year caught 68% of his balls and had 11 yards per target. 11 yards per target. You know, that was his rookie year without, you know, this high-powered offense. I mean, Lamar did play some, but they were not exactly what they were this year. Even this year, you know, he was 8.7. But my point is he showed huge play ability, efficiency, catch percentage, this whole thing. He showed it. And then Gesicki is 6 yards per target and 50%, 60% at best catch percentage. He's just been not impressive.
So,
that being said, I will say that Gesicki becomes a value at some point because he's going to get 100 targets, right? So, I mean, I'm just saying he's not going to be elite unless he changes something.
He's closer to Dawson Knox than he is to Mark Andrews?
I mean, because let me ask you a question. Right now, if the Bills called the Dolphins and said, hey, we'll trade you Dawson Knox straight up for Gesicki, I think the Bills say, absolutely, thank you so much, ship him.
The Bills would do it. I don't know.
The Dolphins aren't doing that. There's no way.
Get him out of here. They're ready to go, baby. Get him out. He's Trey Burton 2.0. Come on, get out of here.
Wow. I mean, I see what you're saying, Jax. I do think he does need the targets. I personally think he might get them with these opt-outs just because he does profile as a big slot and he plays really well there. So I totally see what you're saying. Unlike Mark Andrews, who doesn't need to have a ton of targets and he's going to be efficient on that lower target volume, I think Gesicki is one that might need the targets in that offense. And the tricky piece is that he profiles as kind of one of those seam stretching tight ends where he's got two big play wide receivers on the outside, and if Fitzpatrick plays, Fitzpatrick likes to push the ball outside to those receivers. So it is going to be an interesting conundrum. I think for me, it's just your expectations, right? Like Stoner said, the position's really thin. So if your expectations are, you know, between 8 and 12 as his finish among the tight end group, then I'm okay with that. But when we start getting into the expectation and the draft price being inside that top 8 is definitely where I'm backing off a little bit. So I can feel that. I'm going to move on though, fellas, to just a couple more pieces. One of them, let's try and be a little bit quicker on this one, just because everybody's been talking about this and I'm a little bit late to the party on this one. Damian Williams and his opt-out. That was it was big in perception, might not have been big as far as impact on fantasy, depending on what your thoughts were on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But Stoner, why don't you kick us off here? What do you think about the Damian Williams opt-out? Like, does it do much?
No, I was actually just considering that the Chiefs may have been hit the hardest by the opt-out, losing a starting tackle, and we'll just call him a starting running back.
Canadian tackle, by the way.
Doctor, we'll just call him a doctor, Dr. Tackle. And you know, another rookie offensive lineman that they were kind of big on, who may have had a chance to step into a role this year, also stepped out. And I mean, we're just going to call Damian Williams the starting running back. He was the starting running back. Now he's not. I mean, I think it is a big loss. He's not ideal, but he had a role in that offense, whether you like it or not, whether you love Clyde as your rookie one running back, even though it's clearly Jonathan Taylor, and you're an idiot if you think differently. But I still probably like you mostly. I mean, Damian Williams still had a role. He was still gonna produce in that fucking high-powered offense. So, yeah, I think it does matter. I think the question now is who becomes that second running back that they use to lean on. And I think maybe we'll discuss a little more of that later in the tandem running back section. But who's it going to be? We thought maybe they'd bring Shady back, but nope, not him. I mean, is it Devontae Freeman who's still waiting for a gig somewhere? Is it the Darwin Thompson that people fell in love with last year? Is Ware going to come back and rise from the dead like a phoenix? I mean, there's going to be a running back that fits that role. And, I mean, you have to question how ready they'll be in a shortened preseason, a shortened training. Damian Williams knew the offense. He was ready to go. So I think it will be a little bit of a loss, but come on, you got Kelsey, you got Tyreek, you got Mecole, you got Sammy Watkins for the 2 games that he shows up. I mean, you got weapons. So the Chiefs are going to be fine. It's just, I think Damian Williams is a loss for them.
Jax, where are you sitting?
I mean, obviously, I totally agree. I think at the end of the day, though, I was a bigger Damian Williams fan than I think most. I understood that he had limitations. I wasn't overweight with Damian Williams at any point. He was an older, later breakout, late draft. There's just a lot of things that made me understand that he was never going to be, an elite bell cow in this league. But at the end of the day, he was explosive. And if you ever watched him in the Super Bowl, he was awesome. And
MVP.
I mean, wink, wink, MVP. But yeah, I mean, I think he is electric. And as good as Clyde Edwards-Helaire is, I mean, I thought he was probably the 5th or 6th best back in this draft, which is great because it's one of the best running back drafts ever. But or excuse me, 6th or 7th probably, I guess. 5th or 6th. At the end of the day, losing Damian Williams is a big deal, and I think at the end of I don't think that what I don't think will happen is I don't think that it's all going to CEH. Okay,
totally.
The overblown volume projections on him, I think, are a little out of line. He was going to be super efficient. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's going to be a really nice running back to play on a weekly basis because he's going to have a few targets and he's always got a chance to score. So even if he doesn't have that many rushing attempts, it almost doesn't matter. He's still very valuable fantasy asset. But I just don't see the close to 300 carry type of thing. I mean, people saying he's going to get 90%. I just don't see it. They're going to find ways to get DeAndre Washington is a guy that I think will get just run. Darrell Williams will get the dumb, Darrell Williams downs that you're like, why is he in there? But
he'll have a 3-touchdown game where he has 7 yards.
Absolutely. So there's going to be all that, but I think it's a loss, but I think they'll be fine because they're dope.
Yeah,
exactly. I think the Edwards-Helaire hype is getting nuts. I mean, I've seen him going in the first round of drafts that's happening right now. Yeah. But I feel like he can.
He went 101 at the pros versus Joes. He went 101 in a redraft league over CMC.
Wow.
I could see him having a Kamara-like rookie year, though.
Yeah. Totally.
Maybe impactful from the gate, though. Maybe you're not waiting 6 or 7, however long it took Kamara to get rolling. I mean, but that type of, efficiency with his touches, like you said, but he's not getting overwhelmed because I think that's the beauty of that dude as a rookie right now is that people haven't seen him. They don't know what to expect from him. So let's not just feed him the rock. Let's make it special when we do use him. And those 15 inches are going to be so dank when he gets them too. I'm going to hate watching because JT is still my dude. And fuck the Chiefs. For obvious reasons.
Yeah. I have JT as my number 1 rookie running back in Dynasty. I actually do have Clyde as my number 1 in redraft right now. Just because of the situation. I just think it makes complete sense. He's actually my running back 10 for 2020. So I am pretty high on him. Well, not as high as some, of course, but I did move him up a little bit, and I do think he can be efficient no matter what the volume is. I do my expectations have been a little bit tempered in that I kind of question the volume a little bit. Jax, you mentioned there that a lot of people are expecting this 300 carry volume. Not going to happen. I think if he clears 200 carries, his owners should be happy.
I agree.
And I just kind of always question because it really feels like everybody's expecting 100 targets from this guy right out of the gate. And I don't think that's going to be the case because if you look back, Andy Reid's tenure with the Chiefs, he's had one running back hit 100 targets, and that was Jamal Charles early in his tenure. So I think that was 2013 or something.
Williams?
Jamal, shout out Term.
Shout out Term.
And I mean, that team was a lot different in that it had Alex Smith and almost no wide receivers, right? So Jamal Charles was the only real weapon. Now you've got Patrick Holmes, a bunch of good pass catchers that can go downfield. So I'm really curious because they're going to have to scheme up those targets, because I don't know if Patrick Mahomes is going to default to a check down as much as some quarterbacks are going to. So
that dude's going to throw for 6,000 yards this year.
That's just it, man.
It's true.
He ain't checking down unless Coach Reid tells him to.
Totally.
COVID defenses and all sorts of mismatches and all sorts of nonsense. He's going to absolutely rip it up. I mean, if you want to talk about COVID, you were going to talk about COVID. I mean, COVID's just going to, it's like taking the board and just shaking it, right? There's going to be just situations where there's just, and if you're going to do that, I think I tweeted this. I said, this just gives another hurdle for the good organizations to beat up on the shitty organizations, because the shitty organizations aren't going to be ready to handle what happens. They're not going to have contingency plans and all the these backups coached up, and who's going to have the backups coached up? Bill Belichick. He's going to have everybody coached up. Everybody's going to know what the fuck to do. As right?
Jenny, Peyton,
right?
Those guys are all going to have it.
Right. So I mean, if you're looking to try and handicap the season, you just pick the great coaches and great organizations and give them an extra win or two. And that's how I've got not to step on a little article I've got coming out, but I've got a preview, AFC NFC preview, schedule preview, and over under bets. And so nice. That's when I'm looking at that, I'm trying to say, well, who do I trust? I trust Frank Reich. I'm not a huge Indy fan,
but you're also you're trusting Frank Reich and Philip Rivers, a seasoned veteran, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? An offensive line with Quentin Nelson and guys that are the best in the, you know what I mean? You're trusting
Philadelphia, Baltimore, Seattle, San Francisco, all these teams, even Pittsburgh to some degree. I mean, they probably have their shit together, So at the end of the day, the Saints. Ben
is healthy, they're good. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is too.
Obviously. Yeah. Though Ben's the huge question mark in this upcoming season, because, you look at their defense, they're legit, and they can absolutely put pressure on Baltimore for the division, as can Cleveland, by the way, with their improved defense, improved offensive line. Everybody shitting on Baker, but ultimately he had bad coaching, bad offensive line. I mean, he had a lot of things not good.
I was talking about Baker last night, actually.
Yeah, you were.
I said that 2020 is it's the Baker redemption rebrand tour.
I love it.
He's the Justin Bieber of the NFL.
Yeah.
He was this young, brash punk, and he had a terrible season last year, and I think it humbled him a little bit because we haven't heard much from him. He's been quiet.
Yep.
And I think he's going to come out and he's going to play well in 2020, and he's going to not be as cocky. He's still going to be confident, but he's not going to be I hate him, Baker. A little redemption, like Bieber. Everyone hated Bieber. He was talented as hell, but he was a cocky little brash prick, and everyone hated him.
Well, and if you think about it, he's going to be playing that Kirk Cousins role, and I think he can play that great. He was I forget what the stat was, and Trav always has these stats. You can just tell me what stat I'm talking about, but he was one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in play action last year. When he was in play action, he was great. And when they asked him just to sit back there and let his offensive line betray him, he wasn't as good. But when he could get the defense moving the way he wanted to, he could really do a good job. And I think, what are they going to do in Cleveland this year? They're going to run a lot of play action, a lot of 2 tight end. I think it's going to suit him well. They upgraded both tackles.
Totally.
Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Great running backs.
Dude.
Yeah, totally.
Great
man. I think
that could be a sneaky team.
Totally. Stefanski is going to be really good for Baker in just bringing the pressure down, because he's not going to have to be holding this team on his shoulders. They can rely on that run game because they have the horses to do it. And I think they have better pass catchers than what Stefanski was working with in Minnesota. So I like that Bieber call. So Baker Mayfield's going to roll up. He's going to be all tatted up out of nowhere. He's going to be hard as fuck now. He's going to be practicing MMA and shit, and he's going to reinvent himself like the Biebs did. I like it.
I said that Gardner Minshew was everything that Justin Bieber, or that Baker Mayfield
wishes he was. Yeah,
He
exactly.
totally
No, he
is.
is.
Yeah.
He is. Cool
That's beautiful.
mustache.
He can have a shitty season and people are still gonna like him. People are gonna be like, "It's cool, Gardner. You're good.
Yeah.
Come back with the jorts next year. We'll still be rooting for you." But everybody wanted Baker to fail so badly, and he did. Here's a weird COVID question. There's some players, and I'm going to use the Cleveland Odell. He gets hyped up off the crowd. He gets that energy from the crowd, right? There's certain guys that I think not having fans is going to have some sort of negative impact. And by contrast, maybe you have some of these younger rookie players who shit their bed when they're on the big stage, and they shit their pants because there are 60,000 people there or whatever. And now they're not going to have to worry about that. So you may have a balance where some players perform at a better level because there is no audience there. And then you might have some guys who feed off that energy, who struggle to get going.
It's like the swag factor, you know, like some of these guys might feel like that's a part of their swag is when they have a whole bunch of people wearing their jerseys right there. They got somebody to do that touchdown dance in the end zone for. Totally like that call. It's interesting because it would be hard to kind of pick those guys out because I like how you said Odell, because that's kind of like that kind of diva mentality that's followed him, and I can see that. But it's interesting though, because I bet you there's a lot of players who aren't as flamboyant, who maybe have that little piece of their psyche that's connected to the crowd as well. So really tough one to pick out, right?
Usually there's flamboyance. It's the Tyreek Hills that want to piece out people that they're 15 yards away from. Like it's guys. It's those alpha personalities on the field. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I mean, diva. I always hated that people called Odell a diva.
Me too, kind of.
It might be true in context, I guess, but at the end of the day, Odell is just Odell. I still like him.
He has a ton of fun, man. He has a ton of fun out there, and he's a great player. Like, if I'm making the catches he's making, you're damn right that I'm going to be, like, loving me some me. So, I feel that.
I'd rather like more players than hate more players anyway. What the hell's the use of hating these guys? I mean, I find what's cool about them and love on them. I mean, if some guys do some fucked up shit, then, we can pass on him. I mean, Tyreek's not my favorite player, but even him, give him some redemption, give him an opportunity. He's a man just like you and me, and hopefully he can turn things around, become a better man. I mean, that's what we're hoping for. So.
Horrible person, solid football player.
Yeah. Oh, but right at the end of the day, he's still cool as fuck to watch play football, right?
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, it's not a moral stance to watch football. I'm sure there's a lot of jerks, but a lot of great guys. So whatever, get past that. And I'm with you, man. I love every team. Like, I think that's what a lot of us are why the hell we're doing this in the first place is like, we love this sport. I love playing it. I love watching it. I love thinking about it. I love writing about it. I love all of it. It's so much fun, and so, yeah, I'm with you guys. Real quick on the COVID, actually, the fans and the COVID and all that sort of thing. One thing that it got me thinking about was, everybody's fading rookies, and the narrative that's been persisting, throughout the fantasy industry has been, well, there's no camp, so all these rookies, got to fade them. Every rookie fade them, and there's just been this huge rookie fade, except for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, of course. But other than that, rookie fade. And I would just basically say to you, I think that that's probably just as not correct as it is correct. Yeah, they're losing camp, but so aren't the veterans. The veterans are losing camp. That's kind of when they assert their dominance. I don't know about y'all, but I played football, and during that doubles, whoever is like, man, he is the fucking starter. You look over, you're like, that dude starts because he beat my ass out. But now you got CeeDee Lamb showing up. He's like, looking over at Michael Gallup like, bitch, that's my – I'm as good as you for sure.
I'm wearing 88 for a reason, son.
Yeah, I am playing. And so needless to say, I am a huge CeeDee Lamb fan. I think he's going to be a dog. So, of course, I pick him every time because I think I'm 90% invested in him in best ball, which I think is just funny. But just because, come on, he's there every time. I'm like, there he is, CeeDee fucking Lamb. But so CeeDee and all these guys, but Jalen Reagor, he's going to get opportunity. I mean, all these rookies, I think maybe we see more of them. I'm just saying it's still a coin flip to me.
I had a converse take on that as well. I think that we're disregarding the ability of the coaches to adapt to the situation as well. I mean, you mentioned Rager and guys like that who can get massive chunks of yards after the catch. If you don't think that Doug Peterson and Shanahan and guys like that can tailor plays to get the ball into the hands of those playmakers, you're a little bit crazy. And yes, the playbooks
sure.
of these teams are probably gnarly, but if there is a shortened camp, it stands to reason that they'll make it a little more easier for everyone.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
Exactly.
And progressively get consumed and get bigger over the course of the season. I mean, the players and the coaches are going to adapt. So I do think that there are going to be some rookies that struggle. Denzel Mims is not a guy I want to invest in.
That's
with
a product
Adam
of the coaching
Gase
staff.
being the guy that's trying to teach him. But I'm all over Jalen. I love Justin Jefferson still.
Yeah.
Brandon Ayuk. Those are guys that I want. CD. I'm all over them. I mean, I don't have an issue taking any of those guys because the opportunity is there.
Especially in redraft. I mean, at the end of the day, we look at last year and a lot of the late round,
Debo.
Yeah, the late round wide receivers that won leagues for people. A.J. Brown, Debo Samuel, Terry McLaurin. These guys were dope. And so I'm not saying that you should be just overweight in rookies, but I think they possess some asymmetrical upside that other guys in those, everybody's talking about Jamison Crowder. I love Jamison Crowder. Yeah, he's going to get you targets, but you know what he's going to have is 6 yards per target, 7 yards per target, and 3 touchdowns. That's what he's going to have.
7 for 42.
Right? He's not going to do what CeeDee Lamb might do or Jalen Reagor might do. Granted, at the end of the year, yes, you may say, look, oh, yeah, wow, Jamison Crowder had 800 yards and Jalen Reagor only had 700. Yeah, that's possible. I grant you that. If I'm projecting, I'm going to say, well, it's probably more likely that he gets to 800. But if I'm betting on who's getting to 1,200, it's a 0% chance that Crowder is and a 13% chance that Reagor is.
Yeah.
0% for one, 13 for the other. So you're betting on upside. And late in the draft, I'm swinging for upside anyway, because if not, I'm going to just drop how long are you going to hold on to Crowder as your wide receiver 5 to make sure for the bye weeks? Fuck that.
And,
there'll be a guy just like him somewhere on the waiver wire.
And that's the key point, is that you're getting an Ayuk or a Reagor as your wide receiver 5.
Great.
So you can wait because you have Allen Robinsons and Stephon Diggs and guys like that ahead of them. Whereas, you might look and say, well, they had the same number of yards, but Reagor may have gotten 70% of his yards in the second half of the season.
Bingo.
So now he's been a flex guy for you the whole second half of the year.
Exactly.
Jamison Crowder, he hasn't
still
done
7 for 42.
Yeah. Right. He's still getting 7.
Like a metronome gives you 7 points a game.
Totally.
I agree with that. Yeah. When you're drafting late and you want, I'm taking the risk on the guy that has a better chance to shoot the moon than the guy that's just going to be consistently flopping around for 6 points every week.
Right. The guy that is going to be readily available on the waiver wire in week 4. It may not be the same guy. It's not going to be Jamison Crowder. It's going to be insert player name who is exactly the same as Jamison Crowder available on your waiver wire. That's going to be, I don't even know who it is yet. We don't know who it is.
Probably
Russell Gage. Right. Yeah. Somebody. Right? Somebody. Scotty Miller is going to be like, oh, look, Scotty Miller gets 5 catches a game. Oh, great. For whatever.
Great. Hurst goes down week 4. It's all Russell Gage season, baby.
That's awesome, fellas. Right on. So I think we've covered enough COVID. That little blanket that's hanging over. For sure, dude, for sure. I agree. We're just thinking positive for the NFL season. We're hoping that they do it right and keep those players safe.